For this interview episode, I'm going to be talking about robotic abrasive blasting. In recent years, society has witnessed a rise in the use of robotics, and it's revolutionized different industries. When it comes to abrasive blasting for surface preparation, there's a lot of new technologies that are currently coming out. With me today, I have John Vogel, who is the marketing manager for RBW Enterprises. John, welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, John, a question I would have to start off is that we've seen in the last number of years a rise in robotic blasting and in different industries, really. Where do you, now that we're in 2020, where do you see things going related to robotic abrasive blasting?
Well, Jim, and a lot of people that we've talked with, both domestically and international, one of the biggest pushes, I believe, for robotic blasting, well, they're probably in two places. One is safety, and the other is environmental concerns. So I see that, we've had real good response and real good use of the machine over the years. But as we hear other countries becoming more concerned with environmental issues as well, that, it's becoming something they want to educate their people on. It's things they want people to be aware that is available out there, and the word is kind of spreading that way, that we, from what we have heard here recently.
So your product line's called Faster Blaster. What industries do your robotic products operate in?
Well, the biggest industries that they work in it's all ground storage tanks, but either in with water tanks or petrochemical tanks, probably about 50-50 between those on the tank side. Over the past few years, they've also been used in preparation of pipe as well before shipping out. So it's all steel primarily right now, but the biggest use of them is in ground storage tanks.
And what are the advantages of using robotic abrasive blasting?
Well, like I mentioned, the first one is environmental. With ours particularly because the machine itself has the blast cabinet under vacuum, there's no emissions. So in particular, when you're looking at the water side, a lot of water tanks are very close to residential areas, very close to other businesses. And, the use of the equipment keeps spent abrasive and the material being removed from the tanks under control, keeps it sealed, keeps it vacuumed, and doesn't allow it either to go anywhere on the ground or to blow around in the neighborhoods if it happens to be somewhere in the neighborhoods. The other big advantage is time savings for contractors. They're able to blast so much more per hour that it allows them to do more work within a year. It allows them to finish jobs faster, which when you're talking about on the petrochemical side, that is a positive for the people that own the facilities because their tanks will be out of service, for fewer number of days or weeks. Mm-hmm. Another big one that we talk about is safety for the people as well. Rather than having men up in baskets or suspended, other than the setup, you're talking about being able to control the equipment safely from the ground. So, although there are fewer people on that particular piece of the job, you have your people available to do other things in the whatever your scope of work happens to be. And again, that leads back to your time savings because you're able to do more work at the same time. Whether it's do interiors or exteriors, or whether you're talking about trim work or painting at the same time. Mm-hmm. It'll all save you time. And in the end, that savings is a savings not only for the contractors and what they have to put out as far as expenses, but in the long run, they can bid better jobs and they can save the facility owners as well. So, those are the big things that we try to point out with any robotic blasting equipment.
So in a lot of industries, there's always a misconception that robotics are displacing the human worker. And obviously, currently where the robotic abrasive blasting units are in the surface preparation industry or market, they're kind of limited in a way because, it's difficult to use these things on a bridge or certain structures and things like that. When it comes to the robotic system that's, say, for example, you're talking about, on the storage tanks and things like that, what type of support network is required, a human support network, to operate these and to keep these units up and running?
Well, really, the equipment is a one-man operation. It can be after setup. But usually 2 men operate it. One that's going to be operating the remote system and controlling the machine, and one that's going to keep track of media, help with hoses and cables and those types of things. And when you talk about replacing people, it may replace people on that particular end of the job, but again, that frees up people to do other bits of work that usually prolong jobs. They're going to be where there's always going to, like you mentioned with bridges, there's always going to be other pieces of those that can't be done robotically. You have stairways, you have edges, there's piping, there's things that still have to be done. And if those people that you're saying, that some people saying are being displaced, they can focus on that at the same time as the robotic equipment is in operation, which again goes back to saving your time, saving you money in the long run. And it gives you just you're able to paint right behind it. You're able to do all of those different pieces of the work simultaneously. So you're not really replacing people. You're just kind of replacing maybe the process and the order in which you do things.
And when it comes to training related to operation and things like that, particularly your product, is it very complicated, or is it pretty simplified with things that are built into the systems?
Yeah, it's very simple to operate. It's a very small handheld remote control that it's about the size of your palm, and the learning curve is very, very short. It's very easy to learn, very easy to operate. And when you're talking about the people that are going to be using it, they're not starting from scratch. They're used to rigging for safety for people. So the biggest learning curve is, I would say, the rigging of the equipment, just getting it set up properly, getting it so that it will work as efficiently as possible. But again, you're not starting with people that have no background knowledge. They have a pretty good knowledge of what they're going to need to do anyway, but just like the process, it's just a change in what type of rigging you do. But again, it's quick to set up relatively when you're talking about setting up machinery rather than rigging for supporting men up on the side of a tank. And then you can get, again, back to the time savings. It's easier to start quicker, get people working in other areas. So no, the learning curve is not difficult.
When a few years back, I had the opportunity to visit your manufacturing facility in Georgia. And what I noticed there was that you guys are doing a lot of research and development. And the other thing too, what I found interesting was the ability to do customization. What do you see, in your opinion and your experience, what type of robotic changes, let's say future changes or future technologies related to abrasive robotic blasting, do you see coming potentially down the road here?
Well, one of the big things being robotic are the electronics. And, we've seen that over the 21 years that the equipment's been built here, we've seen a drastic improvement in those electronics. And because of the improvements, the components last longer, they're more durable, they're smaller, and it makes the system operate more efficiently. So besides the equipment end that we do the research and development, one of the big things is just technology keeping up with us. Better remote control systems, better contactors, better drives, better, for lack of a better word, the computer that controls it. On the other end, what we try to do, we do customize for people. We try to work with people that have the equipment as often as we can, as far as, if they get a difficult type of tank, trying to come up with a fixture or a piece of equipment that will definitely help them. And on the other side, as I mentioned, we do mostly steel, but there are robotic systems that are mostly used for concrete as well. And that's one of the things I can, that as we continue to work, is to be able to adapt our equipment to also be used on concrete. Because if it can be used on both, then you're back to helping the contractors and giving them a wider variety of work that they can do with the same pieces of equipment.
Well, and you think right now, the challenges in the industry, especially related to abrasive blasting, is in concrete, you're dealing with silica.
Yes.
Now, with related to obviously on the steel blasting side, at the end of this year, at the end of 2020, the beryllium rule is supposed to kick in. So now you're going to have a situation where maybe people look towards robotic blasting for both dealing for the silica issue, but also potentially for the beryllium as well. And can you talk a little bit about the environmental aspect of robotic blasting?
Sure, and one of the big uses up till now, of course, the silica and the beryllium are going to become bigger issues, but lead has always been a big issue. And another place where the equipment really saves contractors time and money is if you have a lead abatement job, you're going to have to contain an entire tank. With the use of our equipment, again, since it's under vacuum, there are no emissions, so there's no risk of lead getting into the environment at all. It's immediately vacuumed off and immediately sealed into a drum. So you eliminate those things. So down the road, you'll run into the same thing with concrete, and when you talk about the silica and beryllium, it's still the same issue. It doesn't matter what material it is; it's going to be contained and vacuumed away before, rather than having to contain it with tarps or with something else and then vacuum it out. You eliminate that step. So you eliminate a lot of additional media. You eliminate a lot of additional time. You eliminate a lot of additional hauling of material in and material out. So again, we're back to the saving time and effort and work on the part of the contractors to be able to do, in some areas of the country, due to weather, they're very limited in the amount of time they have to work on these, and you can get more accomplished in a shorter period of time.
Well,
So environmentally, it not only helps you get into those areas and protect the people around, but it also lets you do a wider variety of material that may need to be contained.
Yeah, I can see now, from our discussion here, where the big impact is, and especially moving into this new decade, potentially with, the silica regulations and then the beryllium rule, where robotic blasting is probably going to continue to increase, and especially the technology you're talking about, basically controlling the unit with a palm size unit. That's amazing. So you see that things getting a lot smaller. They're more robust. I remember going through the tour in your plant. These machines are very hardy, and they look very durable to be able to deal with any types of conditions and work that might be put against them. So I commend you for the research and development you guys have done, but also to the product you put out there. One last thing I have for you is we were talking about the aspect of, advantages for robotic blasting, the different types of units that, can be used, and then also too, what are the advantages of it. In our discussion here, is there anything that I didn't cover that you feel is important to get out to everybody?
Well, another thing I would like to get out is the fact that, the faster blaster Bob spent more than 20 years, and as you say, research and development, getting these out in the field as often as possible to come up with a good product. But the thing is the versatility also. I mean, with the faster blaster, we're able to do horizontal surfaces and vertical surfaces, and we're talking about pipe as well over the last few years. And now we're talking about the research and development into concrete. The bigger variety you're able to offer to contractors, the more it gives them to be able to do in their scope of work, with, again, fewer pieces of equipment. If you can robotically do that wide of a variety of materials and different types of work, it really opens up their business as well. And you know, as the electronics and as everything else improves, and as, you know, we make little tweaks here and there based on work with customers, and as things get better, it all comes down to what's the best way to get these people working, protect the people all they can, get as much work done as possible, and again, on the facility owners end, save them time and resources as well.
Very good, very good. I will, in the video description below, I will have information on RBW's website and contact information for John. And I encourage people to check out their website and take a look at their products and solutions. And they have a lot of very informative videos, which I found really interesting to watch, of application and things like that in the field. John, I really appreciate this opportunity to talk with you today, and I hopefully we'll have an opportunity to continue to work together in this industry related to surface preparation. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate the opportunity.
Have a good day.
Look forward to seeing you.